This is Captain Hall here to talk about our new Community Risk and Emergency Services Analysis Standard of Cover. Many times, we refer to the document as the CRESA or SOC. So, what is it? The CRESA is a comprehensive document about our who, what, when, where, why, and how. Essentially, it's the why we do what we do and how we do it. The CRESA is wholly based upon Category 2 of the self-assessment process. Category 2 is assessment and planning. The CRESA has several purposes. It paints a picture of our community and its risk. It allows assessment of how we do things, and it ensures we help meet the community's expectations. It also shares data and other information with external audiences. It basically helps us tell our story. The CRESA is also one of 3 written requirements for accreditation. The others are the self-assessment and community-driven strategic plan. Also, one more thing to note is that the CRESA will soon be online at our Key Documents page, and there will be a hard copy in every station. Let's do a quick intro to terms that you may not be used to, and that's planning area and emergency service zone. So we have the community divided up into 3 larger planning areas, the north, the central, and the south. And we also have emergency service zones. These 1 square mile fire grids, or districts as they're called in Firehouse, are even a smaller component of how to look at the community. Inside the SOC, you'll have 6 different sections. Section 1 is area characteristics. Section 2 is programs and services. Section 3 is an all-hazards risk assessment of the community. Section 4 is deployment and performance. Section 5 is a plan for maintaining and improving performance. And finally, Section 6, those are our conclusions and recommendations. And there are 2 appendix items. One is a demographic profile of each station's first due area and an ESZ analysis, which will have information about each of our nearly 80 emergency service zones. All of this info will help build a better awareness of Olathe as a whole and every square mile of the community. Section 1 is area characteristics, and basically it helps someone get a good sense of our community overall. It talks about many things like government, demographics, climate, schools, transportation, and much more. It also has a history about Olathe and a department-specific history with some recent milestones. Section 2 is about our programs and services. So basically, it's the what we do. And this section covers how we are organized to provide services, such as community risk reduction, fire suppression, EMS, MIH, tech rescue, and so much more. It also talks about how we are organized to do the work. So basically a fire station map, organizational chart, county response areas, and risk reduction efforts, which is a summary of our various programs and initiatives. Section 3 is the all-hazards risk assessment of our community. What it does is helps us better understand Olathe and our risks. It looks at different things like community hazards, threats, consequences, impacts, risks, conclusions, and critical tasks. When we talk about risk, we're going to talk about classification. And classification is really merely a reference to talking about things by type, like fire, EMS, tech rescue, hazmat, etc. As we talk about risk classification, we also consider quantities, such as call volume. But at the same time, we also considered measures of quality. Quantities are merely outputs, and qualities are outcomes. Outcomes help provide a better understanding of our actual performance or impact. Some quality measures include fire confined and room of origin, save calculation, and performance calculation. As we talk about risk, we're also going to talk about categorization. Categorization simply means severity. And in our CRESA, it's going to talk about low, moderate, high, and special. So every risk classification is then further defined by categorization or severity. Examples regarding fire would be fire low, fire moderate, fire high, and fire special. So within each classification of risk, fire, EMS, etc., you're going to find risk level conclusions and categorizations, categorization by call type, and critical tasks. Let's take a look at this risk-based deployment model just a little closer. For example, we have a table that it talks about fire risk level classification, conclusions, and categorizations. These categorizations are low, moderate, high, and special. As the severity of risk increases, so does the complement of resources needed to effectively mitigate the incident. And then following the conclusions and categorization table, you'll then see a table called categorization by call type. This table provides more detail about the risk categories or severity and the call types associated with those risk levels. Finally, you will then see a critical task table. Critical tasking is simply the determination of what is needed to be done and who is needed to do it in order to effectively mitigate an incident. The determination and summation of critical tasks establishes our effective response force, or our ERF, which is also known as our concentration of resources. A critical task analysis was done for every risk level classification and categorization. Okay, let's check out some examples of critical tasks. For a low fire risk, such as a trash debris fire, at least 3 people are needed to mitigate the incident. This is determined because there are 3 critical tasks which must be accomplished. You have 1 person for command and safety, 1 person for fire attack, and 1 person for pump operations. Now, near the end of Section 3, you're going to also find information about correlating community risks. These factors, either alone or in combination, may reliably help in the projection of future service demands for specific populations or locations within the community. For example, residents living in a chronically impoverished area may be more at risk to both fire and EMS-related incidents, which could easily result in more calls for service. Now, Section 4 is about our deployment and performance. Section 4 is about both a quantitative and qualitative analysis of 2 deployment perspectives. These perspectives are our current or our baseline performance and an evaluation of our deployment. Please keep in mind that when we talk about baseline performance, we are talking about how we perform today. The CRESA looks at several things in regard to our baseline performance, things such as community expectations, community service demands, and other considerations like equalization measures, concurrent incidents, first arriving coverage, and elapsed scene time. So as we look further into our deployment strategies, we see a static distribution and 4-minute travel time. Static distribution is simply the distribution or location of our fire stations. There are other strategies that we look at, such as resiliency, reliability, and the consideration of time as a factor. In the CRESA, we also have our baseline performance tables, basically those tables that tell us how we perform today. And there is also a response time performance by planning area. The CRESA also talks about benchmark performance and baseline measures. These measures are basically statements of how we operate today, and then the benchmark is how we hope to operate in the future. Benchmarks are basically goals. As we move through the document, Section 5 is about our plan for maintaining and improving performance. Simply stated, we always strive to get better, and this continuous improvement philosophy helps safeguard the people and property of the community while ensuring the safety and security of our own people. Our compliance methodology helps us exercise due diligence, makes appropriate revisions, helps us ensure capabilities to provide resources to mitigate risks, and provides assurance that performance and deployment meets expectations. At its core, our plan for maintaining and improving performance is simply about the customer and our continuous improvement of service delivery. Finally, the CRESA's last section is about our conclusions and recommendations, which were all created based upon the work in sections 1 through 5. The CRESA process was an important part of the OFD's continuous improvement commitment. The process was undertaken to basically better identify our strengths and our areas for improvement. Ultimately, the process helps ensure both excellence and equitable customer service. If you have any questions about the CRESA or our continuous improvement process, please feel free to reach out to me, as my door is always open. Stay safe.